Surface berries go through here. These little beds don't have anything in it, starting from scratch there. And then we're just adding some lighting and some more shrubs and some surface berries in there. When we do these, we usually start with the trees. I'll plant the trees and then we'll lay out the shrubs, and then I'll plant the shrubs. Then we'll lay out the perennials and plant the perennials. When that's done, we move into the lighting, do the lighting layout, and then mulch. All right, so we just talked about all the details with Derek. I have our drawing here. It's not one of the 3D drawings. So these little projects, Derek will often just do a little sketch out. It's a struggle to read his writing. Usually it takes 2 or 3 people to try to decipher what he put down here, but we worked it out this morning and I think I can read everything on here. That's a huge win. Surface berries go through here. These little beds don't have anything in it. They poured a sidewalk here, so starting from scratch there. And then we're just adding some lighting and some more shrubs and some surface berries in there. Reynold, I think last fall, did the back portion of this house. Super cool yard. It's kind of, there's lots of little rock work. It's planted real heavily. It's a property that hardly has any grass to mow. And it's what they call it, storm gardens or rock gardens or something like that. It's a pretty cool look. I love this. It's not something we do much and it wouldn't look right everywhere, but there's thyme growing in it. There's creeping geranium. This Reynold put all kinds of path lights through it. There's service berries back here, which I think is a great choice. And then he put some sidewalk in here. So we're just gonna kind of continue our theme in the front there. Some natural stone steps. Beautiful. We're just gonna kind of keep moving our landscape and lighting throughout the front. Let's get started. I think when we do these, we usually start with the trees. I'll plant the trees and then we'll lay out the shrubs, and then I'll plant the shrubs. Then we'll lay out the perennials and plant the perennials. When that's done, we move into the lighting, do the lighting layout, and then mulch. Biggest to smallest, layout, plant. Kind of the pattern that we follow even on the big projects, but even on a little scale like this. So I'm gonna start by putting in our surface berries and our Japanese maple and our big weeping Norway, and then we'll lay out the shrubs.
One tree in, 3 to go.
Wow, the trees are all in. I have a few landscape tips for you. I forgot to tell you, the homeowner, I think these boulders came from, they're doing a deck remodel back there, and I bet they found them during construction. Anyways, they had some boulders sitting there. This is not typically what we use. We usually use bigger ones, and we like to use stuff that's surfacey, that has moss and stuff growing on it. This was obviously dug out of construction. They asked if we could use them, and we said we would. When I plant trees and use boulders in landscapes, I typically put those 2 things in at the same time. We like to mound the tree a little bit higher and then bring in some rock work. Rather than putting one small rock through numerous places throughout the landscape, we like to use clusters of 2 or 3 to stack them together. And I often put boulders around the specimen trees that I plant. So in this bed, I just put 3 bunches of 2, and I try to space them a little bit like I would plants, keep spacing equal, and do like clusters of them throughout the bed. So I've got a group of 2 there, a group of 2 here, and then over there another group of 2, and that's boulder layout. And the spacing kind of holds out with that. That one's a little bit farther away, but I generally like to keep my clusters not in straight lines, but randomly throughout the landscape, spaced at equal distances. So that gives you a bit of an idea. It makes it look better if your tree is up just a little bit higher, and then there's a little bit of contour maybe to the landscape. Now that that's finished, I stuck another bunch over there, kind of give it some flow to it. Now we're ready to lay out our shrubs. DJ brought them over. Hydrangeas, some melon grass, spilled wine logelia, and some low-scape mound. These are pretty much full grown, these low-scape mounds. For landscape, when you're doing selection, I like to stick to more of, say, your meat and potatoes of plants. What can happen with a homeowner if you're going to pick out shrubs, flowers, or perennials for your flower bed, it can tend to be a little bit overwhelming because there's so much selection, hundreds of different varieties. If you're not careful, you end up walking through the nursery and being like, oh, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, and you end up with one of 20 20 different varieties. We have found that it tends to look better to do groupings, to do mass plantings, to do less varieties and more of them. We stick with small plants for the most part, 2-3 foot, sometimes even less, unless it's a very big area. Then we move into like 4 and 5, sometimes even 6 to 8 foot shrubs. I tend to stay small. I do groups of 3, 5, and 7, or if you're going bigger yet, 15 or 21 or something like that. It'll give you a better look than just planting one of everything. Hopefully that's helpful. I know it can still seem like a bit of a daunting task when you start designing landscape. There's certain things that just are kind of in my head that I have trouble articulating. I'll lay this out and then maybe we can look at it and I explain why I did things the way that I did, aside from the fact that I'm looking at a design. But many of these landscapes, I don't actually have a design, and I've done it long enough and I've seen enough of designs that I've learned how to do it. Matter of fact, I might even disagree with the design, and I imagine probably he didn't use a serviceberry where that Japanese maple is. It would get too big, but I would have liked to see 3 of these serviceberries. It just bothers me that there's 2. That's very unusual. Or even in that bed where that hydrangea is, even having a serviceberry over there would have given me a triangle and a cluster of 3 serviceberries. Would have looked better. This is actually a serviceberry. It's a big one. And so
stop your warning.
We have that now. I just noticed that. Okay, that helped. Now I'm happy. See, there was some reason behind it. Okay, so finished. That was quick and easy. I took the spilled wine Weigelia and I kind of move those around the serviceberries. 6 of them, so 3 groups of 3. And then in these beds, this is a low-scape mound or Ronia, I think it is. They mature at 1 to 2 feet, so these are fully matured. Matter of fact, I think they were grown in pretty tightly in a nursery and it made them stretch high. So I think I'm gonna trim these back a little bit. They usually don't get nearly that tall, so I think they were grown too close together. And then just to get a little bit of color in this bed, almost like a specimen tree, we put a hydrangea. It'll bloom at a different time. In that case, I almost used it like a specimen tree. We continue the low-scape mound on the other side of the walkway, another grouping of 3, and then a grouping of 3 hydrangeas over here, just to bring some color at a different time of the year. And then I'll put perennials in these beds, provide some color all throughout the year. Then I took 3 dwarf grasses. The idea with this cluster was there's an outlet here for a lighting transformer. And I kind of want to provide some cover to hide that. We are going to put a fake rock over that, so that'll all disappear, but that's the idea with that. So that's the shrub layout. I'm going to plant these and then I'm going to bring the perennials out. That's kind of like a color. We'll just shotgun some color through it. That's the idea with those. Siege, you plant. I'm going to strategize about the next planting placement.
Just another day.
So you're saying that's same old, same old?
Didn't say that, but
some of these plants that are so pot bound helps to loosen up those edges, help it take off sooner. So this project has a little bit of low voltage lighting on as well, and I can give you some tips to putting path lights along walkways, which is something a lot of people do, and we try to keep it just like our plantings, irregular. I don't like straight lines of things. Sometimes you see walkways with path lights on either side like it was a landing strip for an airplane. I don't really like that look. These are also area lights as well. The name of the game is to keep spacing uniform and try to stay away from straight lines. So and I try to do like trios. Got one over there, one here right beside the walkway, and then I zigzag across, trying to light up all of the areas of the walkway that I can. One of the things with lighting is you always want to be mindful that you're not creating any hot spots, super bright spots, or you just want to disperse that. This is closer than normal. It's just a pretty tight area, and I wanted to make sure that it was lit up pretty well with it being a walkway. So oftentimes if I have a big bank or something, I will do the same concept, stagger them, but I will increase the distance if I'm just trying to not light a walkway, but just bring outdoor lighting throughout a landscape. One here, one there, one there, one there. You get the idea. I get patches of light on the walkway without being overbearing. This continues the whole way through there. It's really awesome if you have different heights because that kind of, it gives a depth difference to it as well. Then we have uplights on our trees, and we're always looking for pillars or gable ends of houses. You know, we want to wash those with spotlights as well. The idea is with spotlights is you want to be careful so that that beam doesn't catch your eye anywhere where you're walking down the walkway. You want to be able to see that the tree is lit up, but you don't want to see the source of the light. If you're walking down a walkway and you got something glaring in your eyes, that's what we want to try to avoid. So we point them the right direction and we use the shields to protect their eyes from that. That way we can see it lit up, but it's not shining in your face. We like to do the same things if you're choosing path lights. Some path lights, they've got holes in the shield or something so that it emits light this way. I don't like those as well. I want my light to go down. I don't want it to go out, because that if it's shining down like these are, you're not gonna have a pinprick of light shining in your eye. Spend the money that you need to on a path light if you're going to, and I shouldn't say, because Lowe's has some okay ones. If you want to do it on a budget, you can, but I have yet to see a very effective solar light. They need to be low voltage if you want a light that looks good. Pinch your pennies somewhere else, and if you're going to do lighting, make sure that you get a high-end light fixture. I keep coming across so many important things that you need to know to do a good job with a landscape project. We filled in soil in these beds because they were way too low, but on an interior bed like this that's surrounded by concrete, keep your soil at least 2 inches below the top so that you have somewhere to put your mulch in and it's not spilling out. One of the things I see people do a good bit is raise the bed too high and then the mulch is spilling out onto the sidewalk and there's nothing to retain it. I use the sidewalk itself to retain it. Very easy. It's the little things that make the difference in one that works and one that doesn't. Also, I'm not a big fan of plastic edging. It doesn't look good. I see people do like along grass. They have that big black plastic. Ugh. Looks disgusting. So what we do on all of our landscapes, we use a bed edging tool like that. Has a tapered blade on it and it cuts a really nice edge and it leaves a taper like that so that we can bring mulch up against it as well. The only place maybe there's room for edging is if you have river gravel beds coming up against grass, and then I would use a nice concrete edging properly installed. It's very time consuming and difficult to put in, but that is one place that you can use edging if you insist. I will say that if you have an edging tool and you cut an edge, it works best if you, every spring when you come to touch up your mulch, if you re-edge. I absolutely refuse to use hand tools. I'm gonna push this wheelbarrow over with my excavator. I'm an excavator. All right, I'll push it. Main plan here is to take the mulch that's on that trailer and then move it in the flower bed. That's kind of the thing we got going here. So yeah, I'm just gonna get back there and get more. We're just gonna keep doing this until it's all spread.